This is Aiyima's brand new X20 series, celebrating 10 years of making cool products. They sent these to me to give them a once-over and to also enjoy, and these are purposely designed to have as little coloration as possible. The T20 is the preamp, and it retails for $175.99 US. It's a fully balanced design circuit with gold-plated PCBs and audiophile-grade components. It features these op-amp chip names, these tubes, RCA and XLR inputs and outputs, and it's also tone control free. So I guess more audiophile, pure signal path, less distortion, reduced noise. But yeah, no tone controls. According to Aiyima, you get the detail and extension from the op-amps and the natural smooth sound from the tubes. It's got a nice sandblasted black finish, a nicely sized knob with a red surround accent. Dead center is a digital display, and off to the left is an infrared sensor and an indicator light. And then, there's tubes, and those have their appeal too. In all, it's a smart and clean looking package. And then this is the A20 amplifier, and this retails for $205 US. It aesthetically matches to the T20, though the knob is dead center. It's flanked by switches on either side. On the right, there's input modes, and then on the left, there's on, off, and then high pass. And that high pass is a fun addition. Essentially, it's there to protect your speakers from receiving any of the ultra-low frequencies, therefore allowing your speakers to open up, play with a bit more clarity, and then allowing you to properly cross over your speakers to the subwoofer. The high pass frequency dial is marked for 60, 80, 120, and 200 Hz, which helps me gauge where to set it. And next to that is a bypass button, which allows you to bypass the amplifier volume control, allowing you to control all the volume from one singular device, in this case the preamp. You hold the button for 3 seconds to enable and disable it. Having a sub-out makes this a 2.1 amplifier. It's run with the TPA 3255 chip. It's got RCA and XLR inputs and one set of speaker outputs. The amplifier power is as follows, and I received the lower powered adapter, but still, I was able to power a wide variety of speakers, so didn't really cause an issue for me. And of course, if you wouldn't mind just liking this video, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, you can hit the bell icon for notifications if you want to receive them. It really does help me out a ton. It helps me get more really cool products like these Aiyima ones in for review. And this year, honestly, has totally exceeded my expectations of what this channel could be. More subscribers, but also way more products in-house than I almost know what to do with. I'm actually a little bit backlogged and I'm trying to catch up a little bit here, but yeah, thank you so much for everyone that has subscribed so far. I truly do appreciate it. I set these up just off to the side of my main media unit, paired with the Auric LP10 streamer for a simple and compact setup. I first connected them with RCAs, but then switched them over to XLRs. And now, admittedly, after having these set up, I do want to invest in some of those short XLR cables. I think they're like 6 inches or maybe shorter, just because mine are fairly long and they cause a bit of undue cable clutter, and who likes cable clutter? The speakers I used were the Mono Audio Bronze 57G, the Totem Loon, and the Paradigm Founder 40B, all paired with the Vestra 10 sub, also from Mono Audio. Oh, I forgot to mention that this is the remote for the T20. It is a fairly Spartan remote. There's not a lot going on, and I mean, what do you need to do? To adjust the volume? Maybe turn off the display? Maybe? It works. The front of the T22, it's a multi-function control knob, and it allows you to do a couple of different things. You short press to turn it on, long press to power it off, and double click to mute. When you do start it up, the digital display does a 20-second countdown. It's pretty standard practice for tubes. The Auric LP10 is a good budget streamer, and I had it connected via RCAs, which does mean it's imparting some sort of sound, but I didn't feel it to color the proceedings too much. Playing Lana Del Rey's There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard, on of all speakers, the Paradigm 40Bs sounds friggin' awesome. It was full, it was wide, the low notes had lots of depth, there wasn't any sort of harshness to the sound or any digital artifacts, and the top end was crisp, but it wasn't edgy. I guess the tubes are doing their thing. Moving down to the Bronze 50s, the sound retains most of the scale and the depth, but loses a bit of that separation, especially near the end of this tune. Moving down to the Totem Loons, the scale gap isn't as big as I would have thought. you know, things like the tails or the reverb are much less pronounced, and the subtle details that I was hearing on the Paradigm Founders, I now have to actively listen for just because I know that they're there. But I guess this more subdued nature of the speaker makes it easier to listen to over the long haul, which, you know, it's something I appreciate as well. Now, about that high pass switch, I did try it on every single one of these speakers, and I can attest that it does work, but it depends on your, forgive this word, your audiophileness, where if you're going to enable the switch, you have to make sure that your system is completely dialed in, and especially your subwoofers are optimally placed. Now, I live in a fairly small place, so there's not much of moving a subwoofer around my room that I can do. I have it either on the sidewall, with floor-to-ceiling windows in my condo, or I have it right in front of me. And I can only assume that my subwoofer isn't optimally placed, because I think it did sound best when it was sat in front of my MIDI unit, and I've listened to music with basically a subwoofer dead center, and it just sounded fuller, tighter. It blended better with my speakers, but that's just not a realistic setup in my space. I would just trip over it, it would get knocked over, it would get damaged in my space, so I try not to put a subwoofer there. But when I did engage the switch, the cutoff on the bronzes is about 41 hertz, I believe, and so when I initially set it to 60, I noticed it almost immediately, where it did, I guess, open up the sound a little bit, but that low-end presence from the speaker in my small room was missing. It has less depth to the sound overall, and for my own personal taste, I prefer all of these speakers with the high pass frequency disabled and just having it in regular mode. It just sounds bigger and it sounds fuller, sounds richer. I like it more. But I guess individual results may vary depending on your audiophileness. Maybe you have speakers that you don't want to push harder. Maybe you have a better ear than me. That's definitely possible. But for my own personal sample size of one use case, I disable high frequency mode or high pass frequency. That. And then playing Hide from Dorian Concept, the Bibio rework. Sometimes a type of tune or genre of music makes me want to reach for a certain type of speaker, and in this case, it was the Totem Loons. I guess it's an electronic, acoustic sounding ambient track. I could have also reached for the Sonus Faber Concertinos. I do still have those in-house, but I went for the Totem Loons. It's a gorgeous sounding tune with a repetitive guitar and some nice, beautiful synths. I love it to death. I do find the perfect speaker pairing for the stack is the Monarch Audio Bronze 50. The highs are crisp enough, there's detail galore, there's tons of low-end prowess, and it's the type of speaker, depending on the size and characteristics of your room, that you can choose to implement or not implement a subwoofer. There's a decent amount of weight from these speakers alone. There's lots of detail. There's just enough airiness up top. I think it sounds wonderful with this amplifier pairing. But of course now, if you want to go all crazy and pair it with the Paradigm Founders, I found they work really well. To me, it's the best sounding pairing out of all of these three, even though all three sound great, but for now different reasons. And then playing something a bit more energetic. There's Made It Clear from Clinical and Alert from Envy, two future bass / dubstep tracks. Tons of bass weight. I did use a subwoofer for this because electronic music calls for it, but tons of bass weight, lots of presence, lots of detail. The highs are really clear, lots of snap, and those shakers and hi-hats feel amazing. I did play around with a high pass, and I still do prefer it off, but it is a switch on the front. So now it's a bit of a fun gimmick where I can enable it and disable it on a whim and then hear the inherent differences. It's actually a fun thing to do. And in doing that, I realized that I don't miss tone controls with this amplifier stack, which can only mean that maybe I'm turning into a tube guy. Oh, this rabbit hole of audio. The one, I guess, comparison that everyone sort of chimes in on reviews like this is, how does it compare to a much more expensive amplifier, something like the Marantz Model 40N? Well, the answer is it doesn't. It's not there to. It is a budget component, and it's not to be a direct competitor to a much more expensive amplifier. It's not a giant killer. if I was to directly compare it with the Paradigm Founders with the Lana Del Rey track playing, there's more instrument separation with the Marantz Model 40N than there is with these. But unless you're going to directly compare these two, I think it's a moot point. This is far more cheaper. It's a different category of amplifier altogether, and I don't think it matters much. I do think the margin between the inexpensive amplifiers and their more expensive counterparts is getting smaller every day. They're not direct competitors, nor are they giant killers. And if you are nitpicking, yes, you do get better performance out of the more expensive amplifiers out there. But for not very much money, you get 90% of the way there. And if you're looking for a product that you can listen to, live with, own for a long time, pair with a wide variety of different speakers, this is the one. I think it sounds awesome. I think everyone out there needs to hear it at least once just to give it a proper run through. I'm going to be keeping this around. I like it a lot. Thanks for watching.